So welcome to my YouTube channel. Monthly, I decided to start doing these little small tutorials to help beginners learn some techniques outside of having to pay and outside of having to really search for someone that would help them. So here you're going to get to learn my teaching style, and hopefully you will learn a lot from what I do. Now, if you are not familiar with the colored pencil picker app, I would suggest you grab that. I'm just going to take all of my monthly pictures that I do, and I'm going to use it from that app. They have a challenge every month. So this month it's actually this red pump, this heel, and it's really shiny. So I'm actually excited to get started on this to show you how to get those nice shines and just the nice glossy look. So I'm using Prismacolors. I went ahead and I picked out all the colors that I am going to need, that I think that I will need, and I will put that list for you in the description box so that you know what you need to grab. So, and then on top of that, I decided to go with, instead of my favorite paper, the pastel mat, I'm going to use this Bristol Smooth. It's a little bit more pocketbook friendly, and if you're just starting out, this is the paper that I use to start out. Actually, I used the multimedia paper, and I found that it was very much lacking in what I could do. So I got the Bristol Smooth 300 series, and it did wonders for me. So if you're looking to level up your art, go for the Bristol Smooth. All right, so enough is enough. Let's start. I am right-handed, so I'm going to work from right to left, top to bottom, so that I don't run my hand across and smudge it. So let's start. I have my regular little sharpener here. I use that pretty often. I also have my electric sharpener. This is my favorite for the Prismacolors. It doesn't put a lot of tension on the pencil itself. And yeah, let's start. Okay, so I'm going to start at the toe over here, and let's start with some, that's going to be too loud. So we're just going to use the hand one today. I'm going to start out with some peach. So let's grab our peach and let's start here at the toe. So when you're drawing, you don't want to just go in and start being real strokey. Colored pencils do best when you do small circles, because then you don't get those crazy lines that you can see, especially in this. This is going to be real smooth, real shiny, and we want to keep it that way. So this whole area here, we're going to base it out in peach, and then we're going to layer on top of it. So this Bristol Smooth is actually really good for blending and burnishing. So if you were using pastel mat and you made a mistake, it'd be easy to go over top of it and just, layer it out. Okay, so the peach kind of comes down this way as well. And the colored pencil picker, if you're a beginner, it's super, it's useful. It's super useful. So I would just get it, and it will help you learn how to base out your colors, and it will help you if when you're starting out, and eventually you'll look at it and be like, yeah, I don't think that's the color that I need. I don't think that's the color that I want. So that's, I used it a lot whenever I was first starting out. Okay, so I'm going to grab some pink here. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a variation up here in the toe. And then you're not going for weight here. We're not pushing hard. We're just doing small circles and being real light and just exact with it. We're not going to go crazy over here. Now, you can also use, now I'm blowing on my paper, but you can also use paintbrush. This one I just got on sale at the store, and you just kind of wipe away, if you have any issues that you need to wipe away. It's not necessary. I mean, you can just blow on the paper too. Keep looking at your reference photo. And also, if you don't know how to get these lines on here, if you don't want to freehand, I also have a video I'll put down in the description below that you can go look at the different types of transfer. So I'm just looking at my picture and I'm just adding where I think this pink needs to be. And I know it's a red shoe, which is, it can be confusing because with a red shoe you'd think you'd just go in with red. But honestly, there are different variations, and that's what gives it that nice shiny look. Okay. Let's go in with our, let me find my crimson red. There it is. This area here is extremely dark. So this is our crimson red. So get your crimson red and we're going to start to just fill this in. And there's not any really variations in here. So we're just going to go in not real heavy either, but we're going to go in heavy enough that we get a nice layer of pigment. And if you do your small circles, you shouldn't see any streaks or strokiness to it. This medium can be really hard if you're an impatient person. I am actually an impatient person, so it can be really hard for me at times, and I'll have to take breaks and step away because I'll find myself rushing through it. And this red comes up around this opening here. So we're just going to go a little bit up here. And then come back down just to blend this out a little bit better. Okay. Now let's kind of work a little bit more on that top toe. We'll get our pale vermilion. Okay. There's a slight variation in color right here where the dark part is, and it goes around to the toe. So we're going to start where the pink is and come underneath it just very lightly. You don't want to make it crazy hard. If you do, you're going to get a color that you don't want. So we're just getting a little bit. This is our first shine. And see, it's blending out those colors really nicely, like the peach and the pink. And we're just going to come down through here. So take your peach again, and we're going to go over top of it just a little bit more and blend it. We're not burnishing, we're just layering. Okay? And then get your pink again and go over those spots that we did earlier. You can even go down in that vermilion a little bit. Grab your peach again and let's come up here. And then go back over it with some pink. The trick with colored pencils really is just layering, getting those nice colors to show through. When we're doing this, it can seem a little bit time consuming. I mean, this is a very slow medium, so you don't want to rush it. And then we can add just a little bit of white just up here. We're not going to add a lot, and we're not burnishing either. You just want to add a little bit just to give it a little bit of a variation here. And then get your pale vermilion again. And then we're just going to come down through here. All right. Let's darken up our crimson red. Of course, if I'm going too fast, pause it, catch up, and then replay. Now this doesn't have to be super straight here. We can just give it a little bit of a rough around the edges look. Okay. So this is where it gets kind of crazy because we're going to be using some colors that are kind of strange. So I have pink and I have yellow ochre. So we're going to start basing out with some pink. This is a shine over in here, and it's got a lot of different variations with the, you have like curves in here that are a little bit darker, and they can be really hard to see if you're not looking close enough. So let's start basing out with some pink and just slowly fill up this area. And I'm doing circles, and I'm kind of I have my pencil almost on its side just to get that wider angle of the pencil. Not a whole lot of pressure. We're not burnishing. We're not getting crazy. Don't go crazy. And we'll stop it up here because this kind of continues up the same color, but we're going to just I'm going to stop there. Keep it in small sections. Okay, now that light layer is on, come in with your yellow ochre, and this will be very light because it's mixing. It's going to give it this orangey kind of look. So just very lightly, we're just going to slowly add this to the pink that we just had down. We're going to do a couple layers. So you don't want to rush this because if you get too much of one color, it can look more yellow than it is pink or orange, I guess. And you still want to do the small circles to blend those colors together. So after this, we're going to pick up our pink again, and we're going to go over top of it. Get any spaces that you think need a little bit of extra of the yellow ochre. And now use your pink. And we're going to do the same thing. Just slowly build this up. And then use your yellow ochre again. We're just going to slowly build these layers up. We're not burnishing, we're just layering. And I find a lot of times I don't even need to burnish if I layer properly. So burnishing isn't always the best way to do, and neither is the layering. So I think a mixture of both can be very useful in every piece that you do. So of course, if you have any questions, if you don't understand something, definitely put it in the comments. I am okay with answering things. And then also you can find me on Facebook as well. I'm usually around to help. And then I just switch back to my pink and not burnishing. We're just adding a little bit more pink in that so it's not so orange. And this really is like a balancing act between colors. So when you're mixing colors, if you add too much of one color, it can definitely ruin it or get you a color, I guess, that you don't want. So this is why we do light layers, and then we'll add more of one or less of another, or just little bits just to get the tone that we want. So this is starting to really look like I want it to, because it's a shine, you know, it's not like a crazy shine, it's not white, but we want it to look like a shine of red. And I'm going to grab my yellow ochre again. We're going to go over it one more time, hopefully. I really want to make these videos as helpful as possible and try to make them as short as possible. I know that sometimes we don't have time to sit back and take an hour to draw. But to be honest with you, I don't know how to make it shorter. I mean, I can speed up the video, but I feel like a lot of quality and a lot of visual help suffers, because I know a long time ago when I was looking, I didn't understand what drawing lightly, or you know, what, like, exactly how soft did I need to be on my hand. And it was really helpful to watch somebody draw in real time to show me like exactly how gentle I needed to be, or how heavy it needed to be. So I mean, don't count it as, you know, a total loss if if you don't like it, as long as this is, but the content is still there. So take your time. If you need to, if you only have 15 minutes, you know, only do 15 minutes at a time. If you don't have 20, you know, whatever, or however long this video ends up being. You can always pause and come back later. Save your spot and come back later. And now I'm just kind of switching back and forth and touching up little areas that I think could use a little bit more color, a little more yellow, a little more pink, and then I'm just blending them together. Prismacolors are really, really easy to do this. Now, if you have something like the polychromos, they're a little bit harder than the Prismacolors. So I chose Prismacolors because they are a little bit more pocket friendly, and they're really easily accessible in a lot of different art stores. I know that even Walmart will sell them too, if you're lucky enough. So they're easily accessible. You can find them pretty much anywhere. So that's why I chose the Prismacolors. I started with Prismacolors too, so they kind of have a special spot in my heart. I use them a lot as well, but I do also use other ones too. Okay, so I'm coming back in with my Crimson Red, and I just want to smooth out this outer edge here. or at least just blend it a little bit better with this color here, this shine. And if you look close enough, it's not like exactly smooth. We have some rough spots on this, it kind of looks like. So you don't have to be super exact on that. I think that looks good. Now we have a few spots inside of here that they're a little bit lighter, some are a little bit darker. So let's look here. Why don't we see? Okay, I'm going to start with a pale vermilion just like we did up here. And we're going to add a little bit. We're going to start over here and just kind of add this line. We're doing small circles and we're just going down along the edge of this shine. And let's add a little bit in here. And we're still not burnishing. So don't get crazy with the heaviness here. We're just adding a little bit of some tonal values here, some differences. And then grab your pink and we're going to go over top of it just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more, like you see it but it's kind of not there, but we know it's a shine. So I'm just going to go over top of it, blend it out just a touch. We're not using a lot of pressure. And it just gives it a little bit more of a difference in tones there. Okay, so let's go down. I'm going to grab my poppy red, and I'm actually going to grab some more of my, where to go, crimson, the crimson red. And I'm going to use the poppy red for the base, and then we're going to go over top with the crimson very lightly. Start at the toe here with the poppy red. And we're going to work our way down to the sole of the shoe. And there is a big difference between this shine and this part of the heel. So don't lose that line that's in there. We've got a lighter line going across there, but it's not white. So we might add some white just to lighten up those areas. So I'm kind of avoiding this area here just so that I don't lose that line. And I'm doing the small circles. We're not going heavy on it either. Try to avoid rubbing your hand. I'm putting my hand on it, but I'm lifting up and putting down. So I usually have a piece of paper there also to protect. Usually if it's chalk or something that I know that will wipe away real easily. So we're going to actually, this turns into like a darker red. So we're actually going to bring it up to this line here. And then this is the sole of the heel. And we're just going to color that in. We're just working in small areas. And do your small circles. Just so you don't get too streaky here. Okay, and then we're going to use our Crimson Red. And we're going to go over top of it. This is a lot darker, so we're going to work our way across. Trying to see where the tone changes. Sometimes it can be hard to see the difference. You can add a little bit more pressure there. And this is a pretty hard line right here that changes. This is a darker red than it is here, but this is like crimson. We'll add some Tuscan Red too, just to darken it up a bit. And don't forget to keep looking at your picture. You don't want to get carried away. Sometimes I talk about my autopilot, and you might know what that is. If you start drawing and you kind of lose track of what you're doing because your brain just kind of goes on sketch mode and it just wants to draw, and you just start making it up as you go rather than looking at your picture, your reference photo. Now I'm being a much lighter over here because this is that poppy red, but I wanted to add a little bit more color difference here. So get your poppy red. Again, we're going to go, poppy red's kind of like a reddish orange. So, and it almost looks like this up here that we blended out, but it's a little bit brighter, it seems. Mixing colors can sometimes be a pain too. I know on the Bristol Smooth I have trouble with skin tones on the Bristol Smooth. For some reason, sometimes these colors seem to chunk up with certain colors. I think it's like peach, and I have trouble blending peach with the light umbers and stuff like that, and it just gives me such grief. Okay, let's do a little bit of, I'm going to grab a light peach. This, the light peach we're going to do on this area here, because I don't want it to be white. So we're just going to add this light peach right where this shine is. I'm just going to follow it through all the way up to this toe. You're not being heavy with it, you just want to cover. Some. Okay, and then grab your regular peach and bring down this color into this area. We might have to go back over it with the light peach again, just to separate that difference there. Can even come down in here. Let's get our poppy red. I'm just following along the bottom of that shine. And then let's add some white, just a little bit down at the bottom of this. Now, I rotate my pencil too. Once you use one side, it gets flat, and then you can rotate and then you have a sharper area. So that is one technique to get the sharpest possible area. You just keep rotating it out. Okay, so I'm going to take, let me see, I'm going to take the pale vermilion and we're going to go alongside this shine here. Very lightly. I don't want to dig in and I don't want to burnish. And then get out your peach. I'm going to do a little bit of peach in here where we just did the pale vermilion. Now let's kind of make these edges a little bit less straight. Maybe sharpen your pencil if you need a sharp tip, if you don't have one. We're just going to get kind of dig into this shine a little bit. So I'm just kind of like etching away a little bit at this shine and pushing some of the color into it and other spaces not, if you can tell. And these values that you add are super important, because I really honestly think that values are almost more important than picking the right color, because if your values are off, people are going to know. They don't know why, but they're going to see it and they're going to say, you know, something's not right. So doing a value study is important, which is another reason why I like to do the tracing method, because of I have that black and white picture in front of me then for my values. So then it's like, oh, well, there's how dark that value is. And I also have videos on that as well for value, recognizing the tonal values. I can put that down in there too in the description box. Okay, and then get your crimson and let's work a little bit. We're going to go a little bit heavier. We're not like gouging the paper, but we want some extra pigment. Make sure you do your circles. We don't want to go back and forth and cause it to look streaky or see all the strokes. Avoid wiping your paper like this. They do smudge. That is one thing that whenever I was an adolescent, that was really hard for me to break that habit, because I just wanted to rid the paper of all the little pieces, and it just became, you know, I'd ruin my piece. So that is a really nice blend there. We're going to actually come under here and put a little bit more value of this crimson red right in this area. And I'm looking at the toe. I'm going to add some here too. Okay, so let's start looking at, we can probably do the bottom of the shoe and then we'll start working in this area. Okay. Let's start. We've got a shine, we've got some deeper areas. Let's start with we'll do the poppy red. We'll do some poppy like it is up in here. Blend out that crimson red that we had there. And then let's start, let me grab a paper to try to preserve some of this. So I get my hand smudged all over it. So now I'm just kind of working my way down. I'm kind of going over that outline that I have there for the sole of the foot of the shoe. So I'm just going to color this whole sole in. I'm going to end it right there. It looks like it gets a little bit darker over there anyway. So I'm still doing my small circles, working my way up here. Okay, and then let's also grab, let's do the pale vermilion. There is a ridge on the sole here. So take your pale vermilion and create that ridge. We're just gonna, don't get this space in here because it's a lot darker in there. We want to make sure we get that value in there so that it looks like the sole of the shoe. So this ridge goes all the way down. We're just gonna follow it through, and it ends about like right in here. It ends, and it starts to get darker. So we'll stop it there. And then we'll add the ridge over here too. Okay, so now we have that darker area that we've got to deal with. And we're gonna go with, let's see, I'm gonna try some of the, where is it? We're gonna do the Terra Cotta. I'm gonna sharpen this up. We're working in small places, so try to keep your pencil sharp, or you'll get more of a fuzzy line rather than a nice crisp line. So we're going to do the Terra Cotta first, and then we'll come back over it with some crimson red. So Terra Cotta is like this nice, it's like a reddish brown, but it's more brown than it is red, but it has this nice feel to it. So we want to keep it underneath like this. Okay, and then continue it all the way down here. Now look here. We got a little bit darker over here, so we'll stop there with that. And then let's see, let's go over it with our crimson red and get it a little darker. And then we might even be able to add a little bit of black there if you want some deeper values. Okay, so let's redo that pale vermilion here for the ledge, and then we're going to work with Terra Cotta on the bottom of that to give it its nice look. Okay, so grab your Terra Cotta, and we're going to slowly work below that ledge. That we created. I don't want to be too hard because we're gonna have to go back over it with another layer with the poppy red. I just keep looking at my picture to make sure that I'm going in the right direction. So this ends about right here, that ledge. It kind of goes underneath the heel a little bit. And then it's dark. Just keep blowing off those little pieces. Oops. Okay, so get your poppy red and go back over top of that very lightly, just to blend out that color. Might do it again. Might come back in with the Terra Cotta, just to get rid of some of this graininess that you see. Sharpen it up a little bit. You can't really do the little circles in here either, so. But I think it's coming along nicely anyway. I think I'm going to go in with some more of that crimson red. We're going to come in here and just deepen this up a little bit more. Now I'm not burnishing either. I'm just adding a layer of this red, make it a little darker. And we'll even do it up here. Sometimes you have to watch with the brush and blowing too. I know blowing can also be a problem. Make sure your lips are dry if you're blowing on your paper. We have seen some of that on some of the groups that they blow and a little bit of spit gets on there. So be careful when you blow. So I'm going to add a little bit of black here. There's not a lot of black in there, but I want to separate it just a tad more. I love adding black. I know a lot of artists, they don't like to add black. They just like to add the different tones and shades, and I'm okay with that. I think that's great. But I just really like adding that nice, harsh black. I don't know why. I just think it looks nice. It gives it that nice depth. It's like instant gratification, maybe. Okay, let me grab some crimson red. I'm going to soften this line a little bit more. And that one too. I mean, as long as, you know, whatever way you can get that nice deep color. I mean, I don't know. I feel like everybody's their own artist. They all have their own ways. And if you enjoy the way that it looks, I mean, it's not wrong. I don't feel like it's wrong. And if you're looking for other ways to make it better, that's not wrong either. But I don't think that there's any like super exact way where it has to be like you're not allowed to use black, or you're not allowed to, you know, use white or something like that. I think it's just whatever you want. And if you're doing it and you're proud of it, who cares if you used black or if you used white, or, you know, or if you burnished or if you layered, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I added a little bit of black there. I'm going to put a touch over here, the bottom of the shoe. And then we're going to go back through with our crimson red, and we're going to blend that black out just a touch. Okay. I want that a little bit deeper, I think, up here. Now that I'm looking at these areas, I feel like they need to be a bit darker. So I'm just going to go back and forth. And that's the thing too. I watch other artists and I don't know how they can just throw it down and be done with it. A lot of times I have to step back, look at it, make sure it's exactly what I want it to look like, and then I come back to it. So this crimson red, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add a little bit above this shine just to get that little bit of a difference here. And then let's start working on this area. This is super dark. So we've got our crimson red. We are going to probably use the crimson lake to deepen that up a little bit. So actually let's start with our crimson lake, and we're just going to follow this down a little bit. Now the crimson lake, it's a lot like the Tuscan Red, but it's a little less brown. And this is a pretty hard line between these areas. So I'm doing the small circles, and I'm just slowly building this up. Don't worry about the graininess. It may drive you crazy that it's there, but we're going to be layering, so don't freak about it. Just take your time, and eventually we'll get to that point where it's like, oh, the graininess is gone, or if you feel more comfortable burnishing it out, that's totally up to you. A lot of artists will also use the colorless blenders. I have one here. I have a Prismacolor colorless blender. It's not terrible. I do like them. On certain subjects I'll use it. But honestly, I don't use them that much. I find that if I use the colorless blender, it leaves behind a little bit of a residue and that I don't like. It's almost like a shiny residue that I don't think, I don't know, I just don't like it. So I'll use it sometimes though. And I also have on another video as well the different papers with different techniques that could help you. So if you're feeling up to it and you need to look at that, definitely do. Okay, so now the crimson red, since we're done with the crimson lake, we're going to come in with the crimson red and we're going to go over top of it. And we're not burnishing, we're just adding another layer. You want to make sure that this is a crisper line here. And just cover all that up. This is a lighter area right here, and I left it go because I am on this Bristol Smooth, and the Bristol Smooth, you don't color over it too well if you're using a different color. So I'm going to use some pale vermilion, and I'm just going to color that in because it is lighter. Now if I was using the pastel matte, I would have just went right over top of it. So that is the difference between pastel matte and some of the other papers. Pastel matte is extremely unique, and it gives you the ability to color over top of it, over top of like darks with some light colors. So I'd suggest, if you want to try it, definitely give it a go. It takes a ton of layers. Just a warning that you could have like 4 or 5 layers on it already and it still is grainy. So it does. It just takes lots and lots of layers to get that graininess to go away. Go back over to your Crimson Lake and add another layer. And I'm adding a little bit more pressure now. I'm seeing that I have there's some funky lines. Sometimes in production, when they do the papers, you can't see them when you're first starting, but sometimes you get like lines or creases or stuff like that, and that really stinks whenever that happens, but it does happen. Now there's not like a white line here or anything, or a lighter, it's just red and dark red. So we want to make sure that we get that. And then switch back over to your Crimson Red. And we're going to add a little bit more pressure. But I'm going to take smaller strokes, circles. Kind of mush that together. I'm not quite burnishing though. And this is a hard line as well, so crisp that up a little bit. And then I think that I'm going to come in with let's do some Tuscan Red, and we're going to come along this side. It's a little bit darker. But we need that to show some shape here. And bring it up here a little bit. I just keep looking at my picture. I want to make sure that I'm getting the right shapes and shades. And then go back through with your Crimson Red. And then we are going to add some more pressure on this. We want to mush it together and get rid of some of that grainy feel. go over top of that shine just a little bit with this, and we'll come back over with some pink and brighten it up. Okay, and that looks good. Okay, so we are going to continue. Let's start the inside. Now, there's a really cool spot that's right there that has a little bit of texture. So we've got some Tuscan Red, a little bit of black. Let's start with some Tuscan Red. We're going to come in here. This is a really deep tone in here because it is the inside of the shoe. And it looks like there's a brighter spot on top of there. Where's my poppy? Let's get your poppy red here. On top of this deep area here, we are just going to come around this and come around the top of it. Okay, maybe even blend it out with some pale vermilion. And then just deepen that crimson red up again. Okay. There's my Tuscan Red. Okay, I got my Tuscan Red again. And it's all on the top of this. Now my pencil, my Tuscan Red, is getting a little bit short. And I find it cumbersome when it's this short. So when your pencils get this short, it's a good idea to buy an extender, pencil extenders. I have one, and it's being used right now with another pencil that is a lot smaller. So this one isn't quite terrible yet, but it is getting to the point where it needs an extension put on. So we're going to follow this up to about right there, and it kind of lightens up around in there. So take your black. There's some color inside there, so we don't want to color the whole thing. And just follow the outline here. And then let's do small circles along the inside of the shoe. And kind of avoid this area here. Come around the base of it and go up into it a little bit. And then get out your, where's the crimson? I'm going to do the crimson red again. I'm going to add it over top of that Tuscan Red and go into the black just a touch. I'm not burnishing, I'm just adding a layer. I'm going to check this out. Okay, so in this area where all that stuff is happening, we're going to kind of skip over and do the poppy red. Okay, so with the poppy red, we're going to add it all through this. This is where the really cool, like leathery kind of look comes in, right in here. And this poppy red, we're just going to cover it all up. Okay, so take your crimson red now. I'm going to get it sharp. Whoops. And I'm just going to work a little bit into that poppy red. I got to look to see. And we're going to lighten up around this area. Keep it somewhat dark. There's a ledge up here, so keep it somewhat dark under this ledge. And then work your way back down through. Kind of looks like poo right here, but we're going to fix it. Don't worry. Get your Tuscan Red again. And then let's blend some more of this color out. You can go under the ledge a little bit. And then let's work with some more black. And very lightly, I'm not trying to take this over. I want that red to shine through. So I'm very lightly adding this black. You don't want it to be too overbearing here. You just want a little bit. Come back through with your Tuscan Red and blend out that black a little bit. And you see how it's turning into a gradual shadow of the red into the black rather than it just being a dark like shape. So it's really turning out nicely. I'm actually pretty happy about it. So let's work on this top half of the shoe. There's like a crease. I must not have got it on there. So there's like a crease. There's a little bit of the shoe here ledge, and then there's like a fold. So it's like double walled or something. I got my poppy red, and I'm going to add this wall in here over top of the black, just on top of it. And then we're going to work our way up. So this is the first wall here, and it's on top of this really dark area right here that we had. Might even need to darken that up just a wee bit. Let's take some black. Very lightly. I'm just adding a slight shadow. Okay, you see that? Super, super light. Now I have my poppy red. I'm just going back down through. We're going to go like this. And this poppy red comes all the way up until it starts to turn black up here, which is about, let me see, where am I at? Sometimes it can be really hard to see. I think right in here, and then it comes up here. So it starts to turn like a black. I think it's about right here. So let's get our poppy red in. And it does the same thing up here, what it does here. So that'll be kind of, you've already been there, so we kind of know what to expect. Okay, so let's take our Tuscan Red. We're going to follow this at the toe before we move on. We got to get this shape in here to make it look like a fold. And then it kind of comes up here where we've got a, like the wall, the deeper wall here. And how far does that go up? It goes all the way to the top. So continue your deeper wall here. We'll stop it where it starts to turn black. Take your crimson red, and we're just going to blend that out that we just drew. And then let's work on, let's get some pale vermilion out, and we're going to work on this for the toe. This all comes together real tight. And then we will work on top of that. And we're going to come back and deepen up that wall here. And we're just working on this little layer that's going across. It goes all the way up. Sometimes these pieces get stuck on this. Okay, now that that's done, come back through with your black, and all those parts that we had the Tuscan Red, all these little areas, I'm just going to add a small slight layer of this black just to separate it a little bit more. Okay, and now we're ready to work on the inside of the heel coming back down. So grab your Tuscan Red And about where it starts to turn black up here, we're going to just start there and work our way down. So very lightly, you just want to add a little layer. I'm going to add pale vermilion here at the bottom of that black line so I don't lose that. It can be confusing if you don't have it in there. Just take it all the way up to where it starts to turn black. And then keep adding your Tuscan Red. And you want to watch on this because once we get down to this area, there's that patch here that you can really see, and I'll show you how to do that too. We want that leather look. So these are leather heels.